Welcome back to Heaven's Payroll with Pastor Keitha Florence Sr., where we remind you week after week that what you do for God is never in vain. I'm Pastor Florence, and today we'll be talking about something that touches every one of us, whether we admit it or not. What does heaven actually call success? Because the world has one definition, but heaven has another definition. You know, one of the most dangerous things in life is spending years climbing a ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Now, listen to what I just said. I mean, spending life climbing a ladder only to discover that you got it leaning against the wrong wall. And that happens to many people right now. People are exhausted. People are busy. People are running. People are grinding. People are building. People are posting. People are working and competing. And still quietly ask themselves, why do I still feel empty? Because success without purpose eventually becomes exhaustion. I repeat that again. Success without purpose eventually becomes exhaustion. You see, the world teaches us bigger is better, more is better. The world teaches faster is better, louder is better. But heaven does not measure success that way. And I think some people listening today needed to hear that. You know, over the years in ministry, and there's been quite a few, I've met many successful people, business owners, professionals, leaders, people with influence, people with resources, and many of them had one thing in common. They looked fully fulfilled publicly, but privately they was tired. Some had money but no peace. Some had applause but no joy. Some had accomplishment but no purpose. And one conversation always stayed with me. A man once told me, Pastor, I spent my whole life trying to make a living, and somewhere along the way, I forgot to make a life. You know, that stayed with me because many people are building careers but neglecting their souls, building platforms but neglecting prayer, building wealth but neglecting purpose. And Jesus warned us about this. Matthew chapter 6 says, don't lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, but lay up treasures in heaven. Now, notice something important. Jesus never said earthly things was evil. He never said that. He simply warned us not to build our identity on temporary things, because temporary things eventually fade. Title fades, positions fades, applause fades, popularity fades. But eternity things remain. These eternal things, they remain. And that changed how we live, because once you realize heaven measures success differently, you stop chasing something that used to control your life. And before we continue, I want you to stay with me, because near the end of this episode, I'm going to share with you one of the clear signs that a person has started chasing earthly success more than eternal rewards. And many believers struggle with it without even realizing. So let's ask the question plainly. What does heaven actually call success? What does heaven, not earth, what does heaven actually call success? Number one, it calls success faithfulness. Faithfulness. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. Faithfulness, not fame. Faithfulness, not popularity. Faithfulness, not visibility. Just plain faithfulness. The Bible says, well done, good and faithful servant. It said, well done, good and faithful servant. Not famous servant. Not wealthy servant. Not even a admired servant. Faithful servant. That means heaven celebrate consistency. What is consistency? Well, showing up. Lots of believers have a hard time showing up. Can show up for anything, but what need to be done to advance the cause of Christ on the planet Earth. Heaven celebrate consistency. Showing up. Praying anyway. Serving anyway. When someone says, if nobody go, I'll go. Obeying anyway. Trusting God anyway. When nobody noticed. Number two, obedience. Sometimes success looks small to people, but enormous to God. One act of obedience can change generations. Just one prayer. One conversation. One decision. One sacrifice. And many people underestimate what God can do through ordinary faithfulness. Look at number three, integrity. Can God trust you privately? And that's a personal question. Can God trust you privately? Because character matters in heaven's economy. You see, the world rewards image. God rewards integrity. And eventually, your private life always catches up with your public life. Moses said that you be for certain one thing, your sins will find you out. So eventually, your private life always catches up with your public life. You know what I discovered? Some of the holiest people I ever met were never famous. Never had a microphone. Never wrote books. Never built platforms. But they were faithful. And I believe heaven knows their names well. And that encouraged me. Because sometimes we think that if nobody sees us, it doesn't matter. But heaven sees everything. Every sacrifice, every hidden prayer, every tear, every quiet act of obedience. God sees what people overlook. And listen, we'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Book Leader. Many pastors, leaders, and everyday people are carrying a story, a testimony, or a message that could encourage someone else, but they don't know where to start. The Book Leader helps first-time and experienced authors turn their ideas into professionally published books without the confusion or overwhelm. From writing support to publishing and launch strategy, they help bring meaningful messages to life. To learn more, visit thebookleader.com.
Now let's talk honestly for a moment. Earthly success can become dangerous when it replaces eternal purpose. And here how you know it's happening. You become more concerned with being seen than being faithful. You become more concerned with attention than obedience. You become more concerned with image than integrity. And social media has intensified this. People now feel pressure to constantly prove themselves. But can I say something carefully? Some people are successful publicly while collapsing privately. Jesus talked about curses a man that is rich toward men and poor toward God. And one of the greatest gifts God can give a believer is the ability to remain grounded while the world is obsessed with performance. What a gift. So how do we begin to live differently? How do we apply all this that have been said? First, slow down. Slow down long enough to ask yourself, what am I really building? What am I really building? First, slow down long enough to ask yourself, what am I really building? Second, ask yourself, would I still serve God if nobody applauded me? Will you? Will you still serve God if nobody applauded you? You know, that question reveals a lot. Third, begin measuring life differently. Not how many people noticed me, but was I faithful? Measure life differently. Not how many people noticed me, but was I faithful? Did I honor God? Did I help people? Did I obey? Did I love well? Did I serve faithfully? That's success in heaven's eye. As we close today, I want to encourage somebody listening who feels unnoticed. Maybe you've been serving quietly. Maybe you've been praying quietly, even giving quietly, sacrificing quietly. And maybe sometime you wonder, does any of this matter? Yes, it's matter. Heaven sees what earth overlooks. And one day, every believer wants to hear those words, well done. Not well promoted, not well known, not well followed. Well done. That is the reward that lasts forever. So keep serving, keep praying, keep loving people, keep honoring God, keep walking faithfully, because heaven keeps perfect records. If this episode encouraged you today, we encourage you to pick up the book, Heaven's Payroll, How God Rewards Faithful Workers. Pick it up on Amazon. Florence Sr. This message goes much deeper and will help you understand how to live with eternity in view, even in a world chasing temporary things. Listen, this has been Heaven's Payroll with Pastor Florence Sr. If this episode encouraged you, subscribe. Hit the subscribe button now, and I want you to share it with someone who needs encouragement. And leave a review so that these messages can reach more people. And remember, what you do for God is never in vain. And also remember that God pays the highest wages for labor. This is Pastor Florence Sr. reminding you to keep looking up. Keep looking up. Keep looking up, because you can't see God looking down. God bless you. You are dismissed. Go in peace.